Hello and welcome to this week's look at the world of action and stunts on film and television. How are you? Welcome back to the show. The podcast this week was in connection with an area of filmmaking that maybe doesn't get as much coverage in connection with action as it should do. But over time, it has progressed to where it's almost impossible to create many of these action sequences without them these days. It's Pre-Viz that we're talking about. Pre-visualization, as its full name should suggest. So you have the humble storyboard and you have the shots which are set out, but there may be a sequence which the director wants developing, or there may not be a storyboard for that particular sequence, particularly nowadays where CGI is so prevalent in the general creating of these things anyway. So what you're able to do is to come up with maybe something that's much more exciting than was originally suggested, or something completely from scratch, because the script may suggest you get to scene 144, for instance, and it says the greatest fight you've ever seen. That might be it. Or it may say, a sensational car chase that's better than anything that's ever happened before. Now, that's not been created, but it's allowing the stunt coordinator and the team to work together to create something, come up with something that's beneficial for that. If we look at fights, we'll use that as an example initially. So you had originally the chance to maybe rehearse a fight beforehand in the morning or a few moments beforehand, or however long it took. If it was a fairly small fight, you would just turn up on the day, maybe go through it in the morning and then film it in the afternoon so that everybody was aware of it, particularly if it was a stuntman and an actor, Then, of course, it's going to get slightly bigger, because if it's the stunt team and the actor will take a part of that, but at later stages. Remember, we've talked about the Bob Simmons fight, whereby you have the two doubles doing the fights, you then have the two actors doing a fight, and then you have those pickup shots of the actor with the stuntman. You want to see more Bond than you want to see villain. So that's the idea behind the whole thing. But instead of From Russia With Love, for instance, which you have two compartments on the train, Spy Who Loved Me, where you have two compartments on the train. If you look at Spectre, which has the dining car, the bar, the corridor, the baggage compartment, so that's 4 different sections of this train, and the fight flows from one place to the other. You have to rehearse that and create it in sections, in segments. This is where the Pre-Viz situation comes up. So very recently, we managed to get hold of some footage thanks to Gordon Alexander, who was doubling Bond for this particular fight in Spectre. You will see Dave Bautista's double, Rob de Groot, and you will also see Jamita Samara, who is the double for Madeline. So you're going to see all of this. It's going to run it through from start to finish. And what's happened is that Oliver Schneider, who is the coordinator with Patrick Vaux, the fight arranger, they've come together and they have created the idea of the fight, the cuts, allowing them to then present it to Sam Mendes and go, what do you think of this? Is this workable? Sam will look at it and go, brilliant, let's shoot it just like that. And the set, the practice set, the rehearsal set that they've created, the Pre-Viz set, will have been measured out to the original set, the final set that's going to be used for the shoot, the take itself. So in order for us to understand this, we need to look at what's gone before. Let's start with having a little look at The Spy Who Loved Me, and the practice box, as it's referred to, that Bob Simmons created for the train fight. And it's going to be Bob Simmons and it's going to be Richard Kiel. And this has been created. I'll explain why as we go on. And then we'll have a look at the Spectre fight and see if we can see what the situation is and how those cuts are put together and where you can see the similarities between one and the other. And then we'll regroup on the other side. All right? Okay, here we go. So this is the blocked out section. So I've tried to put it together. You can see where it's been created. All of the dimensions are worked out by Bob Simmons and the art department, and they've created it so it all works the same. And Richard Kiel knows exactly where he's going to be, what he's doing. He's not going to be, if he swings, he's not going to accidentally hit Roger in the face or Bob in the face, because they've gone through the routine. They know the routine inside and out. And here's the final bit here, and you can see the extra cuts added here and there. That was one locked off shot, but of course in the final film they cut away. There's now it's coming in slightly further. Then there's going to be the special effect on the teeth. There it is, and then oh my god, and he's been electrocuted. Bang goes there, extra oof, another there, kick, and then out the window. And of course it's Bob Simmons going out the window and down the bank. That's all been agreed beforehand. Here is the Spectre fight. And again, this is a practice set, but it's worked out to the dimensions. And we look at it, we look at that initial moment, and then we compare it to the final shot in the picture. They've added a couple of extra bits here and there. It's much darker, the way it's lit, but you get the basic impression. The movements are exactly the same. Gordon Alexander doubling Bond and Rob de Groot, the throw, then you cut back to the final edit, grabbing the head here, throw, bang. I mean, they're all in the same place and they're worked out to the last detail. That's Jamita, and she is doubling Madeline. She takes a part here, whack, hits him, and he goes, no, bang, and slugs on. And now you go back to the final edit and you can see where all of this has come from. It's come from that original working detail. They've created the fight in this environment. Look, they've pushed those pieces to a few bit of board, and you can go from one carriage to the next. Kick, shove into the little closet. It's a closet there, I think, or a toilet. That's what it is. It's got WC written on the side of it, and then thrown out. Here's the shot from the movie itself. Same routine. Bang, in through the doors. There. He gets up. He tries to run away. No, he's not going anywhere. Bang. Ooh. Thrown against the side, pushes up against the side and kicks back out through the door into the toilet. There we go. One side to the other, one side to the other. Through, out, and into the compartment. And then you carry on as with the Pre-Viz action here. And this will have given, I imagine, Sam Mendes the most extraordinary faith in, look, we don't need to do a great deal. You're going to have to add an extra scene here. But all of these punches are pretty much spot on. You're not adding a great deal. All you're doing is allowing the actors, one of which is a professional wrestler, you're going through the motions and say, look, this is what we do. And then we have this little moment here. Now there's the fire sequence here, look, and they've cut and they've done a fire gag. That's real fire. That's not CG fire. That's real fire. And he picks up that, it's an ice pick, I think he picks up at the end of it. And this is the final shot. Look, picks it up, bang, hits him. Up, kick, push, throws him through the side there. Everything, it's exactly as it should be. There's the ice pick. Then Gordon comes in with the ice pick. And they continue. Look, this is exactly the sort of movement that they're going to be given on set. The dimensions here are worked out to the last detail. Everything is exactly the same. So there doesn't need to be any altering, but we don't need to change these punches. We don't need to change the movement from point A to point B, because the distance from point A to point B on this set is exactly the same as it was on the Pre-Viz set. Bang, another cut there. This is now back to the Pre-Viz again. This fight continues. Now, where are we now? The kitchen? The back end of the kitchen? No, we're down to the baggage here. That's him sliding the door open. Drags Bond up, who's exhausted now, right? And then there's gunfire. Madeline's back in the game. And here's that final edited sequence. Again, he's throwing punches. He's exhausted. Up, down, onto the side. Physically swings the door open. Drags him out. And then Madeline saves the day. Bang, bang, bang. There we go. And again, we're still going. We're still moving through. The camera shots, they're practically the same. They may have just turned it up from the back. They may have said this is a better angle. But again, to create that image, to create this danger, you have to make that Pre-Viz work. And this, compare the two. You can physically see it here. This is practically shot for shot, and it's worked out to the absolute last detail. Yes, one's a rehearsal, but the other one is practically, a carbon copy. It's exciting work. It's excellent work. It's first-class work. Absolutely nothing is left to chance. Work it all out to the last detail. They're trying to create camera angles, which they then do again when that one goes out. Here comes the shot on the final edit. And the only difference with this scene is that Hinks is given a moment of dialogue. So you see the barrels going out, barrels going out, barrels going out, and barrel goes off, and there goes Hinks. Here, he gets an extra piece of dialogue, which sells the final moment. Shit. That's how you do it. So, Richard Keel, big guy, 7'2", and some of that set created for The Spy Who Loved Me was slightly bigger than it needed to be, right? Because he's not a gymnast, he has, when he does move, he has to make very accurate movements because of his frame. So he can't just bounce about from move to move. He can't just, what was the phrase? Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. He can't do all of that. So there has to be movements allowing him to look graceful, and yet what Bob Simmons is doing is protecting him and saying, look, I've got you here. Don't worry. We've got all of this covered. This is fine. So some of that will have been recreated. And then, of course, in the fight itself, it's exactly the same dimensions. They've just gone to that. They've taken those dimensions from the practice area and they've run it straight into the set. Now, the Spectre fight, much more elaborate. My cat has an opinion. Much more elaborate. And most importantly, it's enabling those taking part in the fight to crash through this, to crash through that section there. There's pieces of this train falling apart left, right, and centre. But as you see from the Pre-Viz, it's all worked there for a reason. And if you compare the two shots, which is what we're trying to do here, you can see that everything is working itself out to the last detail. Yes, that's how we're filming it. This is how we're doing that. That wall's going to crash through, no problem. This is how it looks. The fire sequence, right? Let's create the fire sequence, and then this is where he's going to go on fire here. Lovely, and CGI use there, little bits and pieces, to create that imagery. Just enough for the director to go, that is much better than the idea that I had. Or the storyboard we've got was fine, but this is much better. Let's go with this. And that's ultimately what's happened here, which is why Olivier Schneider is the man he is. He's very, very, very good at doing this type of thing, creating these types of fights from scratch. There's a great deal of this on Spectre. The pre-title sequence we've already looked at in a past video. But again, created the same way. All of this in a pre-Viz state. They block everything out enabling the stunt guys to work together and know exactly where those movements are. Which is better for you? Is this a better move if I do this? What about if I go here? Is that better? Or that's better, because if you go there, then I can bring this arm round to here, I can bring this punch round to here, and then you'll react to it as I swing past. So all of these things, it is a knock-on effect, but you're enabling yourself to do that in that practice environment. Massively important. Massively, massively important. And here endeth the lesson on this occasion in relation to pre-visualization. I dare say we'll come back to this at some point, because there are so many different areas of pre-viz. In the podcast, I did touch on the idea that some of these things, and I find this fascinating, is that some wonderful car chases that you see in films these days, and of course the stunt coordinators will take they'll have a box, they'll have a box with all dinky toys in it, and they take the cars out and they put them and they draw roads, and they say, right, you're driving this car here, you've got to come down here, and they're physically moving the cars around the roads. Well, with Pre-Viz now we've moved to a slightly different situation where you can take radio-controlled vehicles, you can put a little camera on the back, a GoPro for instance, and you can capture the type of shots that you think will work for that chase. So instead of having to look at it with all the drivers sat round on the floor, hands and knees, looking at a road map, roads here, roads there, here's the junction, there's the bank, there'll be an explosion here, that tanker will go off, and then you'll have to, instead of doing all of that, you can see exactly what's going on from the Pre-Viz itself. You'll have a POV from a radio control car. Maybe there's another one in front that you're chasing. And then with CGI or a form of special effects or visual effects, you can create everything that needs to happen along the way. Once you're happy with it and you've edited that together, you can, again, present it to the director, and the director go, that's nice. How about we do this? So we will take a look at vehicle options, maybe further down the line. But I hope you've enjoyed that. There is so much more to come. We've got bags full of bits and pieces. I was watching a thing earlier. Corey Eubanks, you may familiarize yourself with Corey. We had an interview with Corey on our channel. Go back and check that out. But he was doing either he was doing one of his car crash clinics, or there was some notes. Somebody had asked some questions in relation to general stunts and bits and pieces, and asked me any questions, that sort of stuff, on his TikTok feed. And somebody had asked, had you any recollection of a guy called Hal Needham, and have you worked with him? And maybe you could tell us more about him. He said, and quite rightly so, not so much from a public perspective, although that's what we try and do here. We try and educate as best as we can, but there will be individuals in the business, maybe they're brand new, they are wet behind the ears, and they have absolutely no idea who Hal Needham is. And with the greatest respect to those individuals who are joining the business now, you've got to do better. If you don't know who Hal Needham is, and this is from an American perspective, if you don't know who Hal Needham is, who Alan Gibbs is, for instance, who Terry Leonard is, you really do need to sit down and give yourself a serious talking to. Do more research. Similarly, with any stunt organization the world over, if there are stunts in a particular country, there will be those pioneers who will direct that type of action. They have created this from scratch, and now they are those legendary names. It's like somebody coming up and going, who's this Vic Armstrong you keep talking about? I've never come across it. I've never known anybody not know who Vic is, but there will be people out there who will not know this name. So, it's very important that you do some of that. And on the strength of Hal Needham, if you don't know anything about it, well, may I direct you to maybe listening to the audio book, which is a chapter being read per week by my good self. And that comes out as a podcast every week. So if you are in any doubt, I would direct you to the reading of his extraordinary book, his autobiography. And that's about the size of it for this week. Next week, more of the same. Lots of amazing stuff happening this year. I can't tell you anything about it just at the present time. It is Oh, so exciting. And as soon as I'm given the green light, I will tell you all about it and what's going to happen. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't already do so. Follow the channel. Subscribe to the podcast as well. There's a Linktree link down here. You'll be able to click on that. It'll take you to all of our social medias should you feel the urge to do so. Until next time, bye for now.